Joining us right now on the set for the first time to talk about Bitcoin and a lot more is SEC Chair Gary Gensler. Good morning.
Good morning. Good to be with you.
So it's a month later, and I think we're all curious about how you think this is going, not just in terms of what's happened to the price, but in terms of what you think is happening inside this market and whether you think it's quote unquote working.
Well, look, we focus on investor protection, and of course the issuer is raising money. So this product, we've had similar products in gold and silver, ETFs, you call them. They're technically exchange-traded products. We approved a group of about 11 at one time. This was not the first way you could buy or express a risk in Bitcoin. But as we like to say, we're merit neutral. This was not in any way like an approval of Bitcoin. That existed. It's just how to trade it in these exchange-traded products.
We've had both a futures-based Ether and Bitcoin ETF, before, and I'm curious sort of how you think that this is going to impact the price of these things, given that, by the way, interestingly, who was it who was just on, Anthony Pompliano was just on earlier this week and was saying that so few Bitcoins are actually moving, and what we should think of that.
In merit neutral, I think it's a little less than neutral, Mr. Chairman. It almost was, we called it grudgingly when you finally got it from the court case sort of forced in. Is it really just neutral, or wasn't there a little bit of a, we're not sure about this thing, and buy or go away?
Let me say it this way. We're merit neutral if somebody's complying with the laws.
Okay.
So if they're giving full, fair, and truthful disclosures to the American public, who gets to decide on their investments.
But you're so smart. You're at MIT, and people listen to your what you think about Bitcoin, and it is troublesome to me if I look at it and I see all the merits of it, and someone that taught about it and understands it seems to have an opinion that maybe it's, I don't know, pet rockish or something.
I get your words about pet rocks and so forth. But I think we also have an investor education responsibility at the SEC, particularly about those investments that are non-compliant with either the securities laws or commodities laws and so forth. So here we have an asset class, all of these 15, 20,000 crypto tokens, many of which, without prejudging anyone, many of which are actually something called investment contracts or securities. And the platforms upon which you trade, the intermediaries, they're not like in this building, NASDAQ, that has protections and against fraud, manipulation, and the like.
Just seeing people lose their shirt on with NASDAQ stocks.
You can lose because there's risk. There's risk in investments. But what we try to do as a society is take some of the fraud and manipulation risk out of the markets by regulation.
Is that the problem, though? It's not necessarily Bitcoin, the underlying asset, but more the froth and the potential for fraudsters to use it that has been
this is a field, Becky, that's been rife with fraud and manipulation. And look at all the bankruptcies. And you've had on this set people talking about those various bankruptcies. And it's not just one entity. It's entity after entity after entity. And then investors are just lining up in the bankruptcy court.
What do you make of, this goes to the underlying piece of this. You've heard Jamie Dimon say that he would close it down, that basically Bitcoin is, you've seen the comments, right? It's not just that he closed down, that he would say it's used by drug dealers and used by folks who are doing all sorts of illicit and terrible things. There's very few things that trade today that people talk about like that. Now, there are obviously frauds and things that happen, but maybe not like this.
Like the dollar is like 100 times more.
Well, I know that's your perspective, but I'm just I'm curious how you think about that.
That's true, though. This is how much has been money laundered with Bitcoin. This is how much. This is Bitcoin. This is dollar.
Yes, Joe. But look, here's the Jamie Dimon quote. The only true use case for it is for criminals, drug traffickers, money laundering, and tax avoidance. I know, but we have a guest.
That's his opinion.
We have a guest, Joe. What is your opinion? And what is your opinion that we have something trading on the exchange for the public that has this type of use case, at least as described by the president of one of the largest financial institutions in the company?
It's the leading market share in ransomware, and that's publicly known.
Right.
It's the token of choice for ransomware. Joe, if I can say, the US dollar, the euro, the yen, you have the whole society using it as a medium of exchange. We buy our cups of coffee, as I see here. Right. We get paid in dollars or yen or euro. And you have a whole central bank and support for one currency generally per economic region. That we don't have here. So there's a very real economic difference.
Which is part of the attraction, since it's decentralized, and you can't have a profligate central bank.
It's not that decentralized, Joe.
Well, I know you're saying because of the ETFs, but really it is.
No,
for
it's not
DeFi
that decentralized,
and everything.
because look how finance tends towards centralization since antiquity.
Right.
So what do we have? We have a handful of 3 to 6 core so-called crypto
I understand,
exchanges.
but the asset itself, the way that
that's how the
distributed
accounting
ledger, right? That's how the ledger. And
now, how many times do you have people on this show that say, "I want to invest in something because how the books and records are kept"? I mean, Joe, really? It's just an accounting ledger.
It's a ledger that everyone has, and can't be double counted. It's almost immutable. That's why people think it has inherent value.
So you trust it more than an Oracle database, or you trust it more?
I trust it more than a lot of the Bitcoin bulls say they trust it a lot more than the central bank that enables the fiscal authorities to spend money to the tune of $33 trillion.
That's everybody's investment choice, but
and then I think about how many things can be used in a deleterious way. Of course, but that has nothing to do with the underlying thing that you're using itself. I mean, I can go run a car into a parade and run over 40 people. That doesn't mean we shouldn't have cars, does it?
No. You should have cars.
I wasn't going to use guns because, God, I don't want to trigger, so to speak, anyone on the set. But
when the use case of a particular thing that you're buying and selling as an investment is just speculative investment.
How many of the 90% of the people that own Bitcoin are using it for ransomware? There must be another use case that makes it so attractive to so many people.
Speculative investing.
Right. Speculative investing. That's what. Okay. Let me ask a separate question, which is just to pivot this, because I think the next sort of order event question is what happens to Ethereum. For those in the crypto world, they all want to know how you're thinking about that. And really, if Ethereum is a security, how does that analysis differ from how you would think about Bitcoin?
What we did in January was cabin to one set of filings. We have other filings. You're absolutely right in front of us, but I'm not going to prejudge it for you or the audience. That's something that a 5-member commission discusses. And